What we find in our research is that recruiters and employers are looking for new talent to come into the organizations who have three things, that they are folks who know how to communicate, that have great communication skills, that they have good teamwork skills, and they are critical thinkers. So really what employers are looking for are folks who can build from a foundation, have what we would call durable skills, and use those durable skills alongside of technical skills to ensure their success in organizations. Yeah, we know from our research that internship experiences and experiential education broadly, but specifically internship experiences, are critically important to a first job. So employers are taking a look at students who have applicable experiences. And if they see experiences that relate directly to the job that they're hiring for, they're more apt to select that person for an interview, more apt to select that person for a full-time position. And we find that two otherwise equal candidates, the candidate who's going to get the interview or the candidate who's going to get the job, will be one who has internship experience. There are lots of alternatives to internships, many different kinds of experiential education. And when I talk about experiential education, I would also think even broader. So how have you as a person been educated on the world of work in applicable ways? That can happen in a variety of circumstances. So it might be that you did job shadowing of some sort. It might be that you had a part-time job. It might be that you had a previous full-time job. It might be that you worked on projects in a classroom as part of your academic experience that was really meaningful. All of those experiences build skills. And what employers are looking for are employees who have skills. So as someone who's in a program, who's thinking about their employment opportunities for the future, it really behooves you to think about all of the experiences that you've had and how those have been building on your portfolio that you can then sell to a future employer. I would extend that to things like student groups that you might belong to. And if you had a leadership experience, that leadership experience might not even just be at school, but it might be in your community, it might be at your church. There are leadership experiences that you are obtaining. There are team experiences. There are projects that you're working on that are all applicable to the world of work. So take credit for those and provide those experiences to employers, whether it be on your resume, whether it be in your cover letter, or even in interviews when you're giving examples of the types of work and skills that you have that apply to the job that you're seeking. Everyone needs to be AI ready. It doesn't matter where you are in the work world, if you've been in the work world for a long time, or if you're just entering the world of work. However, there are a lot of caveats around this. What employers are really looking for are employees who are going to be nimble, flexible, and have the ability to utilize AI tools and bring those tools and bring the capabilities of using AI tools into the organizations for which they're working. Right now, there are leaders in AI and organizations who are using it quite frequently and where it's being used very effectively. However, in any ecosystem, in any new shift that happens in the world of work, and this one is no exception, there are early adopters, mid adopters, and late adopters. And right now what we're hearing about in the news are all of the early adopters. There's real stuff that's happening out there, and there are areas where some work is being displaced from workers, etc. But these tend to be larger companies. These tend to be those that are on the leading edge. And those companies that are not quite there, particularly small and medium-sized companies that employ the vast majority of Americans, they're not quite there yet, but they do want to get there. And the reason that they want to get there is because there's a lot of foresight on what AI will be able to do for us, particularly to be more efficient and more effective in our jobs, to do things that perhaps as humans, we don't have to do anymore because we can automate it. However, we do have unique abilities as humans. And those unique abilities are really the critical thinking that we have, the human aspect of thinking through human activity, the human experience, and being able to feed the information to the AI in ways that are consumable. So it behooves all of us to think about our unique place with AI. So to be ready to use it, to be flexible to use it, to be creative in our use of it, and to figure out our place with AI and how our unique skills can further AI and how AI can further our unique skills. So that's really where the conversation is centering. It's really centering around there's so much potential with AI. We're seeing a lot happening. Employers are saying they want the skills, but we're not seeing a whole lot yet around how those new employees are going to use AI. That's the next step. And we know that's coming, and it's coming very quickly. And so all of us have to be prepared for that. Yeah, it's really interesting with employers what's happening with AI right now. There are two sides of it. There's what candidates are doing with AI, and there's what the recruiters are doing with AI. And so we're going to start with the candidates. What's happening with recruiters interacting with candidates is that they're being inundated with resumes because of AI and automation tools that are out there. And so employers, those recruiters who are digging through those resumes are having a really hard time finding the authentic candidates and sifting through the candidates because their pool has exploded because of AI. And so we find right now that employers are trying to find workarounds to it. So they're almost stepping away from the AI tools for a moment and figuring out how they can have more human contact with candidates, find the right candidates for the jobs, because they can't possibly get through 10,000 resumes for 5 jobs. And find the right candidate. So they're stepping back for the moment. They're really taking some reevaluation to figure out how can they beat the AI systems? Can they work smarter, but also find those right candidates? They're being a little higher touch right now in terms of like on college campuses, for instance, and making sure that they're more visible in doing information sessions or in going into high touch situations like career fairs, where we would have thought the opposite, that they would be stepping away a little bit more. But right now we're in an inflection point. I foresee that this is going to iron itself out, over the coming year or so. But right now, the recruiters are in an inflection point. Now, having said that, AI is being used by recruiters, but it's being used in ways in which they're trying to be super smart in helping their organizations to put together things like job descriptions and being more direct about strengthening those job descriptions, thinking about questions to ask candidates so that those questions are more targeted for the job and not generic in nature. Of course, they're using it for screening tools too. But again, right now, there's a little bit of an inflection point in that use. Yeah, that's a really interesting question. We do find a significant number of employers that are doing skills-based testing as part of the process. I do foresee that that's going to become a lot more important because of everything that you just mentioned related to how AI might be doing some of the work for candidates along the way. So the employers have to find creative ways to measure the skills that their future employees may have. Now, they still try to do that during the interview process, of course. How they do that is by mostly behavioral-based interviewing. And so what they're trying to do during that process is asking a question of you as a candidate to gain an example from you about how you've applied your knowledge and what you've done with your skills in a particular situation. And then they're going to ask you questions in the multiples about that situation. So it's not just as easy as saying, yes, I used critical thinking skills in this particular situation, and then the interviewer stops. No, the interviewers are going to continue on. And they're going to ask you about that situation pretty in depth. What did you learn from that situation? Tell me about something that didn't quite go as expected during that situation. Tell me something that you would have changed if you were able to go back and do it all over again. What was the most successful part? Why was it so successful? What was your role in it being successful? What about the rest of the team? What role did they play? And they're really going to work with you to pull that information out to ensure that you're providing them with valid information and to test your ability, just even verbally, that you really do have those skills and you really did think through that situation. And what they're doing in those situations are really saying that past behavior is a good predictor for future behavior. Now, there are other situations, however, where you might not have been able to apply all of those skills that you have. And so they also will leave room for that too. That in knowing that they're looking for people with great ability to actually pull something off. Yeah, so we hear this word networking all the time, and it's one of those that's really daunting because we think, what does that even mean? What does it mean, networking? I don't know CEOs of companies, so what am I supposed to do? Well, you don't have to know the CEO of the company. We need to break that down. And what we have found, though, is that networking is critically important to not just your first job, but all jobs. It's who you know and how you get there. So you'd be really surprised, and most people would be really surprised about who their neighbor is, or who the person they bump into in the grocery store, or someone that they just met through LinkedIn who asked to connect with them. There are people that you meet at a graduation party that you had never met before, a family member who is a cousin who you're just reconnecting with after years. All of those people are connections, and they're all a part of your network. And talking to those individuals wherever you are, that's networking. It doesn't have to be daunting thinking about going to some fancy dinner party and trying to introduce yourself to somebody who you've never met before. It's as easy as talking to the people around you in everyday interactions. And what that means is, particularly when you're looking for a job and you're just coming out of your education, it's so important to tell your story and to tell your story to as many people as possible because you don't know who you're talking to. And those people may be important to your journey. If you're telling those individuals that you're talking to, hey, I'm just graduating, I'm so excited, and they're naturally going to start asking you questions. Yeah. They're going to ask you questions like, oh yeah, well, what's your major? And what do you think you're going to do? So part of the networking is thinking through in advance how you're going to communicate about what it is you want to do next, where you see yourself in the future, but also being open to possibilities. Because we all don't know the answers, meaning we don't know all the jobs out there. We don't know all the ways in which our skills could be applied. So when you're doing that networking, when you're talking to all the people that you're talking to, all the everyday people, make sure you're telling people about your skills, the things that you do really well, and the kinds of skills that you want to use in the future, and the kinds of things that you can actually bring to a company to help them to be successful. And you never know when that person you're talking to might have a cousin who's looking for someone to fill a role. And that's oftentimes how jobs are found.